Hello everyone and welcome back to Phantom Sports Industries. My name is Joe Soisson. I'm a contributor for Phantom's hockey content. Today, I know the NHL season is far, far away, but I came up with some early predictions for some storylines that we could see develop next year. And this is based off of off-season movement, where teams and players landed, and generally where some teams are trending right now in the NHL. So I did 5 predictions per conference. The Western Conference will come out later. Today we're focusing on the Eastern Conference. So these are 5 storylines to watch headed into the 2025-2026 NHL season. So as I start this list, I want it to be known that these are in no particular order, but I do want to start on a high note, which is why my first prediction here is that the Carolina Hurricanes will win the President's Trophy this year. They were 9th in goals per game average this season and 10th in goals against average, and they added K'Andre Miller, a top defenseman from the New York Rangers. And it always feels good to pull a weapon from a division rival. Then they added Nikolai Ehlers, a top forward from the President's Trophy winning Winnipeg Jets last year. And the Metro is arguably the weakest division in hockey right now. Washington lost its depth between Eller, Mangiapane, Oshie, Radish. The Islanders lost Noah Dobson. The Rangers lost Chris Kreider. And yes, Carolina lost some weapons too. Brett Burns in particular will sting. But K'Andre Miller is a solid replacement for that position. And offenses tend to dominate the regular season, which is why I think the Hurricanes will take the President's Trophy this year. Number 2, the Montreal Canadiens will finish top 3 in the Atlantic Division. So last year, they finished 17th in goals per game average. They will now get a full season out of Ivan Demidov, who is the heavy favorite for Rookie of the Year this year. And they added Zachary Bolduc, who had 36 points last year with the St. Louis Blues, and it was just his second year in the league. They upgraded on defense, signing Noah Dobson, so there is a high outlook for this defensive squad. And Sam Montembeault's hard work is paying off. Last year was the first time his goals against average was below 3. He finished at 2.82. And it was also the third year in a row that his save percentage was above 90%. Also, tell me if you've heard this before. The last team to sneak into the playoffs with a negative goal differential loses in the first round of the playoffs in a short series, then upgrades at defense in the offseason. It's what happened to the Washington Capitals last year. They lost to the New York Rangers in round 1. Then they signed Matt Roy on defense, and they popped the next season, finishing first in the Metro. Now, there were a lot of other factors involved for the Capitals, but for Montreal, they've been in this rebuild for a few years now. Now you've made the playoffs. Rebuilding is done. It's time to see what this team needs to make themselves a Stanley Cup contender. At number 3, I think this is the year the Pittsburgh Penguins decide to hit the reset button and trade Evgeny Malkin and Sidney Crosby. Here are the results of the last 4 years for the Pittsburgh Penguins. They lost in the first round of the playoffs, then missed the playoffs by 1 point, then missed the playoffs by 3 points, and now they missed the playoffs by 11 points. They signed Anthony Mantha, who's coming off a big ACL injury, and a couple other players who have been swinging up and down between the NHL and AHL. But Malkin's on the last year of his contract. Crosby's got 2 years left on his contract. If they aren't a wild card team by December, I say let them go compete for a Stanley Cup elsewhere. And what a time for Pittsburgh to reset too, because you could end up with the number 1 overall pick and be rebuilding around Gavin McKenna, who not only looks amazing in the junior leagues right now, but also just agreed to play at Penn State. So he could be a local star by the time he's ready to play in the NHL. And by then, you'll know what you have from some of these players that you just recently signed. Number 4, the Toronto Maple Leafs will finish as a wild card team this season. Of the 4 division winners last year, Toronto had the least amount of points and only won the Atlantic Division by 6 points. That's just 3 wins away. They lost a top-tier forward in Mitch Marner, and this Atlantic Division is stacked. Tampa and Florida aren't going anywhere, Ottawa and Montreal are on the rise, and at the bottom of this division, Detroit's getting better, Buffalo's a top 10 offense, and Boston's got their goalie of the future in Swayman. It's still a stacked skating roster for Toronto, but you do have to ask, can Woll and Stolarz, who are the least experienced goalies in this division, repeat what they did last year? If they can, Toronto is potentially a Stanley Cup contender. If they can't, they're going to be scrapping with a lot of teams for those final 2 spots. And my last prediction at number 5, the Columbus Blue Jackets will be a playoff team next year. They only missed the playoffs last season by 2 points, but there's a lot to like about this squad. They were 7th in goals per game average, tied with the Toronto Maple Leafs, by the way. Zach Werenski is turning into a star on defense. He led the Four Nations faceoff in points, and he was 2nd in points among defensemen last year. And Columbus re-signed a lot of their depth this offseason. Guys like Provorov, Sillinger, Voronkov are all returning to the Blue Jackets. They did lose James Van Riemsdyk to Detroit, but they acquired Charlie Coyle, who had very similar stats. And the goaltending for the Blue Jackets looks better. Elvis Merzlikins' goals against average is trending down, and Jet Greaves looked good in his 11 starts. 1.91 goals against average, 93.8 save percentage. I already talked about how the Metro has its struggles. I don't know if they're a top 3 team in this division, but top half of the league seems manageable for this club. So there you have it. Those are my 5 predictions for the Eastern Conference for the 2025-2026 NHL season. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let me know who you think will win the President's Trophy, where Crosby or Malkin might end up, or if you think I'm just completely off on any of these playoff appearances. Just let me know down in the comments below and I'll give them a read. But otherwise, that's going to be it for me today. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like our content, be sure to scroll down below and hit the like button on this video. And while you're down there, be sure to hit the subscribe button to get notified of future uploads to this very channel. Also, be sure to check out our official website. That's phantomsportsindustries.com. Once again, my name has been Joe Soisson, and from the rest of Phantom Sports Industries, we hope to see more of you next time.